Good evening. My name is Fawn Rhodes, and I will be speaking on behalf of speaking. I will be doing a presentation on critical race theory for Introduction to Public Speaking, Summer Session 2, Dr. William Robinson. How would you feel if you went to purchase a vehicle and they sold you a car only telling you the benefits of the car, only to find out that the car was previously wrecked or had recalls? This is illegal. In the same manner, how would you feel if your doctor prescribed medication to you and did not tell you the side effects? This is medically unethical. In both situations, it can be perceived as intentional deception. This is how many Black Indigenous people of color feel when it comes to their history within the classroom and life overall. Critical race theory is an academic construct stating that racism is systematic and institutionalized into all facets of society. It from public policy to classrooms to the judicial system to socioeconomics. Legal professors or legal scholars Derek Bell, Kimberly Crenshaw, Alan Freeman, and others, they stated that racism is systematic and inundated in every area of our life. This presentation will inform listeners on what North Carolina House Bill 324 is and why supporters of the bill oppose critical race theory and why critical race theory is important to discuss. What is North Carolina House Bill 324? It's a North Carolina House Bill 324 is a North Carolina legislative bill, part of which states race theory, critical race theory, should not be taught within the North Carolina public school system. I'm going to pause for a moment and allow you to briefly listen to some of the reasons why North Carolina House Bill 324 is being discussed at this time.
The Senate would take up legislation, which is House Bill 324, that forbids public schools from promoting certain discriminatory concepts, such as that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. Essentially, what Senate Leader Berger is saying is that the state of North Carolina, the North Carolina Senate, is going to attempt to address critical race theory or the teaching of principles of it in North Carolina public schools. Now, when he announced this, of course, you have the typical outrage that accompanies these kind of things. But I want to briefly just talk about and go through what's in the bill itself, because I think it's important that everyone sees what is exactly in this bill, and then you can come to your own conclusions, divorced of emotions, because it's so important in today's climate that we look at what is actually in the bill and then address that. So just taking a quick look through this bill here. So you see that this bill has been amended a number of times. But essentially, what it's looking to do is to reinforce the Constitution of the state of North Carolina and reinforce the fact that North Carolina, as a state, recognizes the equality and rights of all persons. Now, on the surface, this seems okay. What they're looking to do is to prevent discrimination of any kind against any people. And so they've amended this to say that the word promote means compelling students, teachers, administrators, or other school employees to affirm or profess belief in the concept described in subsection C. As I mentioned before, this is directed towards public schools. So it says things such as public school units should not promote that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. An individual, solely by virtue of his or her race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive. It goes on to say, for example,
So I'm going to pause the video, and if you would like a link to the video so you can review it at your own time, I definitely would get that to you. Some of the supporters of North Carolina House Bill 324 state that some of the reasons why they feel that North Carolina House Bill 324 should be passed is they feel that they have not discussed or they have not decided how to teach critical race theory within the school system. They don't know what the repercussions would be if it's taught within the school system. Supporters also feel that it takes away from addressing the students' academic needs. They feel that critical race theory would cause more division among the races. Some also state that parents should be responsible for teaching critical race theory within their home. These are some of the reasons why some do support the North Carolina House Bill 324 and feel that it should be passed so it will not discuss critical race theory.
A meritocracy.
Oops. So why teach critical race theory? Teaching critical race theory lets teachers and students become knowledgeable of the actual facts of American history without them having the opportunity to go to the interwebs or talking to their friends or people and getting unfactual information. This is how stereotypical information is spread. This is how lies are spread. When we go to unreliable resources or we don't have the facts about information when we get it from our friends. We all can think about times when we were young and in grade school, and I can the most simplest thing I can think about is I remember one girl told me that if I swallowed a watermelon seed that I would get pregnant. So, um, and as and I was in fourth grade, so of course I never swallowed watermelon seeds. But as simplistic as that sounds, that's the type of information that could possibly go around if we do not factually teach correct information. Also, many feel that I feel that by teaching critical race theory, that if we didn't teach it, then why do we have a Black History Month? Why do we have a Latin History Month? Why do we have Asian History Month? There's obviously a void within our educational systems and in society overall that does not acknowledge people of color and the contributions of minorities within American system. And even though this is American society, even though that's from a federal government, there is some acknowledgement that contributions of many people have made to contribute to American society. So if we didn't feel the need to acknowledge that, then why do we teach it? So obviously, critical race theory is important to discuss and to be taught in schools. Lastly, I think teaching critical race theory gives a fair and balanced understanding of American history. So, what do I believe or what do I think? I believe that North Carolina House Bill 324 will be passed in North Carolina General Assembly. However, the United States is a pioneer in an ultimate melting pot, and it will be advantageous for it not to be passed. um, this concludes my thoughts on North Carolina House Bill 324 and critical race theory, and I open the floor for any discussions or any questions that you may have.
I have a question. So, how do you think that this will affect how teachers teach and then how students learn from that? And do you think that this will change the way people view politics?
I do feel that this would change the way teachers speak or teachers approach teaching. Teaching is an art, and you have to have an open mind, and you have to have a willingness to be able to tackle hard subjects. And if teachers cannot have those hard discussions to teach about what's happening within the system, within American society, things can go overlooked. How it affects politically is if we never have those hard discussions and we want to whitewash history, then I believe that politically that will happen um, in our politics. So a lot of times, what will happen is those discussions will go over, we won't want to have those discussions about minorities, and we won't have those discussions about what's happening in certain socioeconomic backgrounds because we're too scared to have real conversations about what's happening in society.
I had a question. I wanted to know, with bills like this being actually in place, is it possible for this to completely almost erase racism or just kind of really put a blanket over it?
I definitely don't think it could erase racism. That's a wonderful question. I believe that it puts a blanket on racism, and I believe that it does not allow real life, real situations to be addressed. Currently, within the state of, within the 2021, we are still coming off of the repercussions of the George Floyd murder. And that murder was such a monumental and touching event that allowed many people who are non-melanated to truly see how people of color have been getting treated within the United States for over 400 years. Within the Black community and within minority communities, police brutality is nothing new. These are discussions that have been held for years on end. And for George Floyd to be murdered in the way that he was, for many of us, it brought us back to feeling the way Emmett Till was murdered for no reason whatsoever. So when we as the Black community see situations like this, it is important that our white allies who stand adjacent with us to have these hard conversations and say that is not correct. And it needs to be taught in classes to see that, look, this is not how we deal with things. This is, we are a unified country. We are a country that respects and cares about every person, but you can't have that discussion if it won't be taught within classrooms.
Great answer, by the way. Very great answer.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It was wonderful and very informative, and it shed a lot of light on this current topic in North Carolina politics. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Do you have any other further questions regarding the critical race theory of North Carolina House Bill 324?
No, ma'am.
I said you had something.
Well, I was gonna say, which was it, the Democrats or Republicans that were really pushing this bill?
Actually, it is a little both that are pushing the bill. It is a strong Republican backing for the particular bill, but there are some Democrats who are pushing the bill. I think a lot of people have to realize that, and I believe that either William or Chris in their presentations brought up that on our previous discussions, many failed to realize that many Black Americans initially were part of the Republican Party, and that white Americans were a part of the Democratic Party. So a lot of times in today's society, you see a lot of um, cross allegiance within political parties. I know for myself, I don't vote a straight ticket, a straight Democratic ticket, just because there are different things that are of interest to me that I want to see further along. So it's a little. I'm not going to say it's more Republican, excuse me, more Democrats, but I would say that it's majority Republicans with some Democrats that are pushing the bill, which doesn't surprise me. Uh-oh, all set is frozen. So if there are no further questions, I want to thank you both, or thank all of you all for participating and taking the time to be here for my presentation, and I will stop the recording at this time.